Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys are all doing well, and today, my friends, we're back with a Skaven vs. Empire showdown. It's going to be Throt the Unclean and Balthasar Gelt himself. Should be quite a bit of fun. Looks like Gelt is coming in with his own goon squad with the double Empire captain. Kind of been hanging out with the Fey Enchanters a little bit. Who knows? Learning about the double Paladins. Now, as far as my build goes, it's a little bit different than what I usually like to do. Usually, I come in with 3 or 4 Jezzails and kind of play that game, but I actually think that if I had come in with the triple or even quad Jezzail build against this Empire build, here from the Platypus, I would have been in some big trouble. There's triple Empire Great Cannon split up across the map. They would obviously get a bunch of volleys off before I could return, and then Balthasar Gelt could fly overhead, and if they really wanted to, Gelt could drop a huge final transmutation on top of my Jezzails and probably hit at least 2 of them, or 1, and then tip the favor in the cannon. So I went with a bit of a rush build of sorts. It's not like a hardcore rush build. It's kind of middle ground. It can defend against the rush. It can also push up. You have Clan Vulcan Tail Slashers, Skaven Slave Spears. Missing a couple, of course. This is the post-Skaven nerf, so Throt the Unclean had a couple nerfs with the Brood Horrors, as did the Skaven Slaves in general, which I think is totally fine. I think Skaven are still an amazing faction. So we got Skaven Slaves, double Warpfire Throwers, and these are kind of a tech piece because they're really cheap. So if your opponent wants to focus them down and, focus them with cannons and other, missile pieces, it's not that big of a deal because, again, they only cost 550. But if they do get to live, they can actually melt Flagellants and Sigmar Suns and troops like that very, very effectively. So 2 of those, triple Rat Ogre. We got Throt the Unclean here in the back. I do like him quite a bit in this matchup. I feel like Skrulk and some of the other characters are a little bit too easy to goon and snipe, so Throt's my boy here. He usually does a good job. Death Runners and double Wolf Rat. So the Death Runners I sometimes Vanguard, depending on the map, but on this map the only options were the corners, and clearly my opponent here has the Pistoliers here and here, right? So that would have been a disaster. I would have lost an expensive unit right out of the gates here. So for the Empire, going for Gelt, and this is kind of similar to, I didn't use Gelt before, but I used to play kind of wide builds like this with cannon split up, and Skaven used to be a very immobile faction, right? They couldn't really press the flanks too well, but now it's kind of changed. Wolf Rat overloads can do some pretty good work, but in this case, it's a good build. Triple cannons can snipe Throt the Unclean, Ogres, they can go after my Warpfire Throwers, Flagellant, Sigmar Suns, Unbreakable Frontline. Looks like it's all Flagellants. They can do a great job. And Gelt for sure is also, one of the matchups he might be decent in, I think, is maybe Skaven, right? Because Skaven tend to blob up a lot. Their armies are very tightly packed. They move around with these characters and, they're Plague Priests. So I kind of like that tech piece. It's very different, and I wasn't expecting it. I was expecting Volkmar the Grim and these typical characters that I could really just kind of chase around with Throt here. So very, very good stuff. So a little bit of skirmishing coming in. The Empire build also has a ton of mobility, a massive amount of Pistoliers and Outriders, and all sorts of scary firepower. So here we're using our Gutter Runners to kind of counter skirmish. The Pit Fighters getting poked down a little bit, but the frontline fighting should be on here in a second. The other Wolf Rat's kind of sitting idle. I saw there was a Pistolier and a Pistolier. Yeah, there are some Outriders mixed in. I think it's 4 or 5 Pistoliers and 2 Outriders in total, but anyways, good skirmish so far, and you can see the Empire Great Cannons actually doing a pretty good job against the Warpfire Throwers. Certainly hurting quite a bit. So honestly, I'm probably not going to be able to really get to use the Warpfire Throwers too much in this battle, so my apologies for all of you guys who are super excited about it. Maybe these ones will get a couple of volleys off. I can't quite remember how it went down, but nonetheless, the rate at which they're getting punished right now is pretty devastating. So Gutter Runners are doing their job, counter-skirmishing, Throt the Unclean pushing up, and I did see the 2 Empire Captains here going in for the gooning on Throt, so they do actually get the charge. Throt will be turning around here in a second, though, and we also have the Rat Ogre summon plus Creature Killer, and honestly, the trade is going pretty good for Throt so far, especially considering I haven't really used my cooldowns, but here comes the Creature Killer. So we get that, plus the Anti-Large and the Rat Ogre summon, and suddenly the 2 Paladins are getting pretty beat up. On top of that, the final transmutation does go down on the Clan Vulcan Tail Slashers overcasted, so what I did is I ran them away from the blob, and it does hit my 2 infantry, which is still a very good cast for Balthasar Gelt. But on that same note, it doesn't hit Throt, and we continue to get to beat down the Flagellants here. Warpfire Thrower is doing a little bit of damage. We are able to roast some of the Flagellants here as we engage with them with the Skaven Slaves, but in the backfield, Pistoliers coming around, and I was a little bit out of position. I was trying to defend the other side, but there's a lot of mobility. And when the Warpfire Thrower starts to kind of route out of the formation anyways, there's not a whole lot you can do as Skaven to protect him. So my main focus at this point was really to try and get the Wolf Rats through kind of the seams, get some Death Runners back here, and shut down all of the different cannons. So I extend pretty heavily with some Ogres and Skaven Slaves. These Wolf Rats were able to chase that Great Cannon crew off the Great Cannon, and now the Wolf Rats will be moving over to go after this particular Great Cannon. So hopefully we can get some value there and take down some of the artillery, because the Empire has been getting some really, really good damage against our forces. However, the Gutter Runners, still holding on, man. Getting 14 kills here. Pestilent Breath going down on the Flagellants does some big HP damage. Throughout the Unclean now going to be making his way towards the back line as well. And it looks like this cannon crew is very close to coming offline, but very, very nice stabilization here by my opponent. Getting the Empire Captain and is able to save those brave Sons of Sigmar. And who doesn't love some good Sigmar action? But nonetheless, the Horned Rat, you know, it's got an appetite here. And these Wolf Rats, I did bring the armor-piercing variant. A lot of times in this matchup, you do run into a bunch of Empire Knights, like 3 or 4. So the build I'm facing off against now, pretty off-meta for sure, which I think is really cool. But I was expecting Empire Knights. That's why I brought the armor-piercing variant, because if you stack them with Throt, they can actually tear apart Empire Knights pretty effectively. So this one Paladin, or excuse me, Empire Captain, I'm so used to not seeing them, but this one Empire Captain is in a little bit of trouble, as Throt is hot on its tail. He's much faster. He applies poison. Should be in good shape there. And we got Ix's Triads here, fighting against some Spearmen, and pretty much just loose engagements all over the battlefield. But thankfully, all 3 of the cannons have been taken offline, and you can see as such, the balance of power has come in our favor. The cannons cost 800 apiece, so 816, 2,400 gold. It's pretty much gone. And I did lose probably about 1,400 in my initial advancement with my 2 Warfire Throwers getting taken down, but the fact that we did goon the Paladins here is pretty huge. One Paladin shattered, the other one is surrounded by armor-piercing Wolf Rats, and now the big rat, who happens to make all the rules, is going to be piling in, going after this Empire Captain, and that certainly is going to give us a pretty substantial lead here in the balance of power. Ix's Triads still doing their thing on the low ground, Pistoliers just skirmishing wherever they can, and the one thing you really got to watch out for, I did feel as if I was a little bit ahead here, but on that same note, I kind of knew in the back of my mind, subconsciously perhaps, that BALTHASAR GELT was sitting there with a big golden smile on his face with a final transmutation waiting to just blast my rats, which inevitably, you can see Skaven armies typically do this. They devolve into blobs. It's normal. They have low leadership, and it usually devolves into the high leadership remaining units kind of moving around as a Death Star, right? Because they're not terribly great at kind of a big, wide map control. A little bit better now with the Wolf Rats, but still a little bit of a tricky pickle to say the least. So Rat Ogre's moving in. Made a little bit of a blunder here. I accidentally let the Empire Captain come back. Some of the Wolf Rats, of course, were doing a good job at kind of keeping it in place, but that was a pretty big mistake, and it allows this Empire Captain to maybe get a charge, kill a couple of extra Rat Ogres. Stuff I obviously really don't want to happen, but Throt gets in there with the Ogres before the Empire Captain can kind of get away. And from there, we should be able to break that Empire Captain off the battlefield. So balance of power, you can see ebbing and flowing, but though the balance of power is in my favor, there's still so much ammunition on these Pistoliers. There's definitely a lot of real estate for the Empire to work with, and this is just a massive, massive map. So in terms of kiting, I'm pretty much going to have to chase into the bitter end and watch out for final transmutations. All sorts of scary stuff is on the horizon. Clan Vulcan Tail Slashers down to what appears to be 63 models. I always forget, these bad boys have 120, a pretty numerous unit here. But the Clan Vulcan Tail Slashers are moving in. They got their flaming swords. They're ready to go. And yeah, the Pistoliers just pulling back quite effectively here, while my Wolf Rats, my Plague Priests, as well as the Ix's Triads are just trying to finish off whatever unbreakable infantry I can find. And, obviously the Doggos do have pretty good melee attack at 29 against Flagellants, who have almost no melee defense. So should be able to chew them up pretty quick. But the whole time I'm getting blasted with nice pistol shots, the pistol braces here in the face against my Wolf Rats. And the battle's kind of getting to the later stages. The end game is upon us. I do have 72 Clan Rats over here, but they're not going to last too long. The Pistoliers could honestly just cycle charge them and finish them, so I didn't really have much credence in the effectiveness of that unit there. And I was kind of hoping, too, I could catch these Outriders and drag them down, but I then remembered also during the game that these Wolf Rats are not the poison variant. So even though I'm catching them, getting a couple kills here and there, I'm not going to be able to really, truly pin them down and allow my other troops to catch up. As such, I kind of have to pull back with Wolf Rats, because Pistoliers and Outriders got a little bit of a charge bonus. They can certainly do a little bit of a tickling of the pickle there. So Ix's Triads have now moved in. They should be able to make, not quick work of these Flagellants, but they should be able to kind of cut through them relatively quick, especially with the support of the Plague Priest and Throt. But this is what I'm talking about, guys. Final Transmutation is going to be going down here. It's so funny. The whole game I was telling myself, I'm like, oh, I'm going to get this as long as I don't get caught in a Final Transmutation. And then it's going to be a really close game. So it happens right here. I get nailed. The Ix's Triads get caught here. The Plague Priest gets caught. Throt the Unclean. That was like the one thing I had to watch out for, and I get caught. But again, I saw blood in the water. I saw some free real estate here, and I was like, oh man, I got to go for it. But balance power is still even. I do use the Remolder to heal myself up, so Throt is getting pretty close to his healing cap, and the Outriders and various missile pieces of the Empire are doing a pretty exceptional job of kind of shooting down that big old happy rat over there. And some of our Wolf Rats and Clan Vulcan Tail Slashers do shatter some Pistoliers, which felt quite good, and now we're going to be moving after the other state troops. So I was like, okay, at this point, Gelt probably doesn't have any more tricks. Plague of Rust is going to be next to useless against me. So let's get in there and let's go after these Spearmen. So the Spearmen are terrified. They're running for the hills, and the Ratos are certainly doing their best to make sure those state troopers don't come back, while some Pistoliers here do charge into my Rat Ogres and get some decent damage, actually. Hopefully Throt with his Creature Killer giving himself anti-large. I wasn't quite in range to give the Rat Ogres, unfortunately, but hopefully he can drag down some of these guys. So we will do a little bit of fast forwarding here in a moment as the game does devolve into a very heavy kind of kiting scenario. There's a bit of ammunition left for the Sons of Sigmar here, and Balthasar Gelt, of course, still cackling up in the skies very, very effectively. So again, I'm just kind of chasing, getting whatever I can, going after Spearmen, going after Flagellants, but I do not have the means to catch this army. So basically, I just go after the State Troopers while the Empire just runs away from my Ixchus Triads clones here, which is, smart. You don't want to waste any ammunition on that. But we do catch some of the Spearmen, and we're basically preparing for the final duel, the final battle for the fate of this particular battlefield. I think it's Castle Drakenhof here. Ammunition running very, very low. I think there's a little bit left on this unit. You can see just shooting at the Ixchus Triads, break them off, only 11 models. Next, the Rat Ogres will be focused down. And you can see the bounce bar is really starting to go back, and I'm just trying to juke the shots, trying to catch whatever I can, but I don't really have any means of catching it. So now there is a blob fight underway. So I summon some Clan Rats here firstly. Gelt actually gets in there with a bit of a golden chair and lays a bit of a beating on Throt, but we get a huge, huge Pestilent Breath, which hits all the Outriders, and we do get a bit of a Terror Rout as well because of the shock damage. And yeah, I hit some Clan Rats, but it's okay. They're just a summon. Who cares? They are going to be disappearing soon. But despite that engagement going pretty well, we did lose position on the Bounce of Power, and that's largely due to the fact that Balthasar Gelt did get in there and steel-chaired Throt a little bit. So we're just chasing back and forth. The Empire not attacking here, just waiting for my summon to disappear. The Spearmen are going to be moving in, of course, so obviously they were attacking. And yeah, Throt's just trying to catch whatever he can. Going after the Pistoliers. Also in the back of my mind again, I was like, is there going to be another final transmutation? I don't know. We do get another blob fight here. I drop another Clan Rat summon, which I believe was my last one. I did not have any more Clan Rat summons. That was my final trick. And Throt the Unclean, trying to break off these guys, trying to get the Terror Routes because the battle did end up being pretty close to the edge of the battlefield here. So if there are some loose Terror Routes, I think some of these units might be able to run off, right? So you can see those Outriders running off, but then Gelt comes in again and snipes out the Plague Priest. The whopping 34 melee attack on the Gelt, getting in there and breaking the measly 37 melee defense of that character. Now, Throt the Unclean, not the best leadership. Skaven generals or characters, specifically don't have the best leadership. So I was trying to get over here and save this Plague Priest because I did have enough wins actually for one more Pestilent Breath. So I was like, okay, maybe if I can Breath. At this point, if Gelt were to fight Throt head-to-head, Throt would probably win, even in his very tattered state. But the problem is the surround. All of these Empire cavalry units and these Pistoliers are going to be able to surround me. And then Gelt comes in and finishes the job. GG, well played. What a crazy game. I thought I had it at a couple points, but that final transmutation, that's all it takes is one slip-up. And, the platypus unleashed all the fury of Sigmar and was able to get a glorious final transmutation. Yeah, very well played game. We had a couple of great games, and those will all be going up on the channel relatively soon. Wolf Rats did pretty good. Yeah, Wolf Rats were great. The Warfire Throwers against like a Volkmar the Grim, Sigmar Sunrush would have been really good. Having to extend into triple cannons was a little bit tough. Granted, it didn't lose us the game per se, but it was a tricky situation. I still think this build's good. Most people will play Volkmar kind of aggressive rushes with cavalry, and this build is pretty well designed to kind of defend against that. But this is like old school how Empire used to deal with Skaven. Maybe, 4 Pistoliers, triple cannons. The Outriders, I think, just gives you extra kiting. And of course, Gelt is pretty good against Skaven blobs. Like I said, Skaven love to go blobs. So really cool build. I dug that quite a bit. I'll definitely be giving something similar a try sometime in the future, as I do love my my Empire. All right, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed that one. Certainly a great match. Well played to the Platypus. My friends, we will see you on the other side. Take care, stay safe, and avoid Nurgle's Plague. Cheers.